Welcome everyone to the April 2022 Virtual Healthcare User Group. It's great to see everyone. I'm Simon Beaumont, and a massive welcome from what is for once a sunny United Kingdom. I wouldn't say it's a warm United Kingdom, but it's certainly a sunny one today. We're just going to kick off in terms of giving a quick intro, overview of today's agenda, a couple of community highlights, and then just sharing when our next meeting is, and then we'll jump straight into our amazing presenters today. So in terms of today's agenda, immediately it goes wrong, so bear with me 2 seconds. Just a welcome on behalf of everyone that organises the Virtual Health Tug. We've got Nicole in the US, Lindsay in the US, and Mark. Mark, Lindsay, I don't know if you want to quickly jump off and say hello to everyone.
Yep. Hi, everybody. Really excited to have you here today. We're going to touch on the agenda, so I'll give a little more of an intro of myself when we present later. But really excited to have everybody here today. And I also know, not to put Nicole on the spot, she is dual tasking and on another meeting, but has been a long time co-lead with us. So we're all really excited that you're here today and really do appreciate you making the time to join us.
Cheers, Mark. And Lindsay passes her apologies. She's got a client meeting that she's had to attend. So normally Lindsay would be here, but the good news is Lindsay will be at Tableau conference in Vegas in May. So for those of you that are going, you'll be able to see Lindsay in person there. Just want to give you a quick update on our House Tug virtual committee. So the organising committee, there will be some changes coming up soon. So after about 3 years, I will be stepping down this year. But we do have a more than exciting replacement lined up who will be able to keep the energy up and keep the progress going. And we'll be able to announce that at the next session. So I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone that's made this group such a welcoming one and such a pleasure to be part of. Mark, Nicole and Lindsay, honestly, it's been a pleasure to work with you guys over the last few years. And especially with everything that's gone on through the pandemic and all the work that everyone's done. To see us regularly achieve 500 people attending these calls, I think just goes to show the value of the community and what it brings to people. So it's been a pleasure, and I wish you all the best for the future, and I will join you next time to be able to announce who is replacing and taking it on. So now that the technology is actually working, going into the agenda for today, we have 2 sessions. One that Ghafar will be talking through Figma, and using Figma to enhance your dashboard designs. And then Mark, Whitney and Megha will be going about embedding BI support into your analytics projects. I won't go into a massive amount about the talks now because I'd rather them introduce themselves and go through the talks. They're the ones you want to hear from. But thank you to everyone for participating in the call today. We can't have done it without you. And we always rely on the community to come up with speakers. So honestly, it's a massive, massive thank you from all of us for being able to nominate yourselves today and put yourselves forward. Just a couple of community highlights to share. We just wanted to give a shout out to one visualization. Since you are on a Tableau user group, we kind of assumed that there might be a bit of an open door to be able to just highlight a Tableau Visit of the Day, I think it was, that was released recently as a community project between Ethan, Kelly, Annabelle and Joey. They've actually used the Tableau public to provide a calendar of all of the Tableau user groups over 2022, and I believe it's updated regularly, so it's well worth keeping in touch with. There will be increasing numbers of tugs hopefully as we get back into in-person. Obviously the healthcare one will always be virtual, but please do go onto it, engage with your local tugs and maximise that as we start to reconnect as a community. There's also a couple of events that have happened, or one that's happened recently and just a small event that's coming up in May. So recently, the Health Data Viz team, so Sue Kramer, recorded a webinar for health and healthcare data visualizations on a Lunch and Learn. That is now available for you to view on demand, so you can go onto that link and view that. Sue is well known across the healthcare data viz community in terms of being an outstanding kind of expert and also an existing in terms of best practice and sharing that. So I'd encourage you all to be able to view that and to be able to benefit from it. And then finally, we do get to see people in person this year. So Tableau Conference 2022 will be happening in May from the 17th to the 19th in Las Vegas. But for those of you that cannot attend, it will also be virtual as well. And there'll be pre-recorded content that people will be able to enjoy virtually from their homes. You can go onto the Tableau website today to either register for either option. And whether it be in person or whether it be virtual, it'll probably be one of the highlights of the year. So certainly we all can't wait to connect and to be able to see people. So please do tag us, please do use our Twitter account if you wanted to connect, and there will hopefully be an in-person event in Vegas for the healthcare community to get together as well. So there'll be an opportunity for the people that are there to all join up and be able to connect. And very last but not least, we just wanted to do our usual pitch. We actually have our next healthcare tug already lined up for June and then a follow-on for September. But as always, we really would appreciate speakers. So if you are willing to speak, it doesn't necessarily need to be on a healthcare topic, anything data related and Tableau related, please put yourself forward. In Mark, Nicole, Lindsay and myself, we will be here for you to make your experience as positive as possible and to make it as easy as possible to connect. The one overriding thing I would share is whenever you can present, everyone wants you to do well. So even if you're not the most experienced of speakers, please put yourself forward because you will have people here that want to hear from you and want to hear from your expertise. We all learn from each other. So it's a safe space to present. It's a supportive place to present, and we'd certainly welcome anyone, regardless of your experience, your expertise or your background. If you would like the opportunity to showcase something you've done, please reach out, put yourself forward, and we will be here to support your journey. And on that note, I believe, Ghafar, you will be our first speaker today. So I will stop sharing and hand over the baton to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Simon. Let me go ahead and share my screen.
Yeah, we can see that. Or we could. Yeah, all good.
Awesome. So, hi everyone. I'm very excited to be here, and I'm really looking forward to sharing how we can use Figma to enhance our Tableau dashboard designs. A lot of folks in the Tableau community have started using Figma, and I think it's such a cool way to enhance your data visualizations, especially if you're looking for an opportunity to learn another tool to enhance your business dashboards on your team. So you don't need to have any background in design to use Figma. I'm definitely not a designer, but after watching some YouTube videos, I was able to pick it up quickly and start applying it in my day-to-day work and personal projects. Later in the presentation, I'll be giving a live demo where I'll be creating a simple Net Promoter Score survey dashboard in Figma from scratch, walking you through the Figma elements that I use most of the time for my Tableau dashboards. And with that, I really hope by the end of the sessions, you'll see how Figma can be a great design tool to enhance your business dashboards on your team. So why use Figma? So from my experience working with this design tool, I found that using Figma can really capture leadership attention, enhance the quality of your team's work, can help you communicate key messages quicker on your dashboard. And I also think it's a great shareable design tool. And like I mentioned earlier, Figma allows you to really amplify your dashboard design. So we can create customized buttons, apply gradient colors, use any font types, apply drop shadow and inner shadow effects, which I'll get into later, and even add round corner edges to your shapes. And I'll get into all of this during our live demo in a few minutes. But more importantly, you can use Figma for your design wireframes and dashboard mockups. I can't tell you how many times I've had to sketch up dashboard mockups before I actually started building the dashboard, and Figma has been a huge help with this process. So here's a quick look at one of our recent Tableau visits designed in Figma. We saw this interesting data set on Kaggle looking at user reviews for Tinder app on Google Play Store, and started designing the dashboards in Figma. I really love this dashboard because it touches on a lot of the cool things you can do with Figma, like creating customized buttons for dashboard navigation, adding gradient colors, and giving dashboard frames really nice rounded corner edges, and applying the drop shadow and inner shadow effects, which I'll get into during the demo. So now I want to share with all of you what the Tableau community says about Figma. Lindsay Betzendahl is a consultant in health data viz, 2 times Tableau Zen Masters, 3 times public ambassador. And she says, Figma and Tableau is my jam. I use Figma in the design, prototyping, and development of almost every business dashboard I build for my clients. Chimdi Nwosu is a data visualization manager, public ambassador, public featured author. And he says, from its use in prototyping to its design function, Figma allows us as designers to bring all our imagined ideas to life just how we envision them in our minds. And lastly, Priya Padam, who's a Tableau and Alteryx consultant, 2 times public ambassador and featured author. And she says, the combination of Tableau and Figma unlocks unlimited design possibilities and allows you to not only create stunning business dashboards, but also beautiful data art. Lindsay, Chimdi, and Priya all use Figma in their profession as analysts and consultants. And the reason why I'm sharing this with all of you is because the Tableau community finds Figma incredibly valuable as a design tool to really enhance their Tableau dashboards to communicate key messages quicker to leadership. And with that, here's what we'll be covering today. In a minute, I'll walk you through setting up a dashboard layout, adding a round border edge to shapes, applying fill color, gradient, and images to shapes, adding drop shadow, inner shadow effects, adding stroke effects, adding nested dashboard frames, and finally exporting the dashboard we created in Figma as an image and importing it into Tableau. And just a heads up, scrolling through Lindsay's portfolio, I was really inspired by one of Lindsay's business dashboards where she used Figma to analyze the NHS admitted patient analysis. Lindsay used a lot of the popular Figma UI elements that I just went over on the previous slide. So taking inspiration from Lindsay's dashboard, I decided to create something similar in Figma with a different layout structure and design looking at fake NPS, Net Promoter Score survey data that I found on Kaggle's website. On this next slide, I've annotated some of the Figma topics we'll be going over here in yellow for our reference as we start to build this out. And here's the instructions that we put together and we'll be following during the demo. Overall, there are 5 major steps. I know it looks like a lot, but it's really easy once we get into it. So that's it for this slide. Let's jump into Figma. So here's what Figma looks like after you've created an account. There's 3 different editions, and I have a slide in the PowerPoint that looks at those 3 editions, which we'll visit later. But right now, I have the paid professional edition, which I strongly recommend you purchase if you're planning to get this design software. In this professional edition, I can make an unlimited amount of team projects and design files. So let me explain what I mean by team projects and design files. Over to the left, you'll notice there's an orange icon that says Analytics Team. And in this team, I have 2 projects. One of them is called Demo Project for today's session. Within a team, a project has all of your design files. So in this case, my demo project has one design file called design file number 1, NPS survey. And in this design file is where you create your dashboard. Now, if you have the free edition, you can only create 1 project. So it'll be demo project and up to 3 Figma design files. So you might be wondering, how can I make more than 3 dashboards if I only have 3 design files in the free version? Well, don't worry about that, because if you stick around, I'm going to share a trick later in the demo to show you how easy it is to make multiple dashboards in a single design file. So let's go ahead and create our first design file. So at the top, let's go ahead and click New Design File. And here's what our blank design template looks like. If you look over to the right, there's a design tab where you can make edits to your dashboard frames and shapes. But right now, we don't have anything on this new design template. The only option we'll see is this background option of the design file. And we can go and we can change the color of the design file if we wanted to. But again, there's nothing on this design file, so we won't be exporting anything yet. There's also an export option right below where you can export your dashboard as an image. So export. If I click on this little plus button over at the top right here, you can export your dashboard as an image, but again, there's nothing on here right now. So now I want to draw your attention to the grid looking icon at the top left. right here. If I hover over it, it says, it's really hard to see probably when I'm sharing the screen, but it says region tools. So when I hover over that grid looking icon, and when I click on it, there's two different options, frame and slice. So for the purpose of this demo, we are going to be creating a dashboard, right? A dashboard that we'll be importing into Tableau. So I'll go ahead and click on frame. So when I click on frame over to the right, you'll notice that there's a couple different frame options. We have phone, tablet, desktop. And again, apologies if it's very hard to see. Presentation, watch, paper. Now, if I click on desktop, we get more different frame options. And again, frame is just the dashboard size that you will be setting in Tableau. So desktop, MacBook Pro, MacBook Pro 16, but in this case, we want to look at just desktop. So if I'll go ahead and click on the desktop option, and it adds that dashboard frame onto my design file. So before I make any more edits, I'm going to go ahead and change the background of my design file to a light gray. There we go. That looks a lot better. So, okay. So now we imported our dashboard frame, and I'm going to go ahead and click on this dashboard frame, and it says desktop 1 over to the left under layers. We can rename this dashboard frame, right? By default, it says desktop 1, but I don't want it to be called desktop 1. I want to go ahead and call it MPS dashboard frame. Just rename it for now. Okay, cool. So now we can just go back into our slide and look at our instructions. So the dashboard frame that we just added has a dimension of 1440 by 860. So let me go back to the Figma design file. So if I have the frame selected right now, and over to the right, we see there's a width and a height dimension that we can edit for this dashboard frame. So here, width is 1440, and the height, I think it was 860. Okay, so let's go ahead and punch that in there. So height will be 860, and we just adjusted our dashboard size, width, and height. Well, we didn't really change the width. It was 1440, but the height is going to be 860. So if I go back to the instructions document, the dashboard solid fill color is white. And it's funny because I always have this memorized, F. So if anyone ever asks me what the color of white is, I'll be like, okay, so it's F. Anyway, so let me go back to the dashboard Figma design file. So we don't need to change the solid fill of this frame to white because it's already white. But if you were to change it, which we'll get into later in the instructions, over to the right here, right below fill, if I click on this F, it's kind of hard, this white square block, I can change the solid fill of this dashboard frame to any color. If you have the hex number, you can also punch it in here at the bottom, if you have the hex number. But in this case, let's just go ahead and leave it at F. So let me go back to the instructions and let's see. So now we want to add a gradient rectangular, a rectangle at the top. So let me go to the previous slide and show you what I mean. So on this slide, you know there's a really rounded corner edge around the dashboard frame, and there's a rectangle gradient. There's a gradient rectangle at the top. So that's what we're going to be adding right now. So let me go back to the instructions, and let's go back to the Figma file. So to add that gradient rectangle, what we're going to do is we're at the top left. There's a square looking icon. If I hover over it, it says Shape Tools. If I click on Shape Tools, now we get a variety of different options. We get rectangle, line, arrow, ellipse, polygon, star, image. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and click on rectangle and then draw that rectangle over on top of the dashboard frame. So I'm literally just drawing a shape, just a rectangle. So I have the rectangle at the top, and we want to give it a gradient of blue-green. So to add a gradient of blue-green, we'll go ahead and click on this rectangle. And then over to the right, under fill, this gray looking option here, if I drag this box over, it says solid, but we don't want a solid, we want a gradient. So I'll click on this drop down arrow here and change it to a linear. And now you can start to see a little linear effect. There's two different boxes here over to the left and right. So I'll click on this first box and let's see, I think it was blue. So blue 100%, okay. So let's go ahead and select blue. Drag this over. Oh, I don't like that blue. Let's see. There we go. This was better blue. And then the second box, we'll add a green. So let's go ahead and add this green. I think that looks good. Okay. I don't like the screen that much. There we go. That looks better. So, okay, cool. So now we have our blue-green rectangle gradient box. So if I go back to the instruction slides, we need to add that really nice rounded corner edge onto the dashboard frame. Right now, if I go back to the Figma design file, if I zoom in upon this file, it's a square, and I don't like how that looks. So to add that really nice rounded corner edge, what you'll do is you'll select the dashboard frame, and then over to the right, where we changed our width and height dimensions, the 1440 and 860, right under the 860, there's a little 0 here. If I hover over that 0, it says corner radius. So if I change that 0 to, I think what we have, let me go back to the instruction. I think it was 50. 50, okay. Let's go ahead and change that 0 to 50. And there we go. We have our really nice rounded corner edge surrounding the entire dashboard frame. So let's go back to the instructions and let's see. So now we need to add 2 drop shadows. So before I show you how to add a drop shadow, a drop shadow is a visual effect giving the impression that the shape is raised above the objects behind it. So let me show you what I mean. So let me go back to the Figma design file. I'm going to click on my dashboard frame. Now, over to the right below fill, you'll see there's an option that says effects if I'm moving my mouse around here. And there's a plus sign. So I'm going to click on this plus sign. And you'll start to see it a little bit. There's a really nice drop shadow effect right below the dashboard frame. So I'm going to click on this sun-looking icon that looks like a sun. If I hover over it, it's just the drop shadow effect. So I'm going to click on this sun-looking icon, drag the box over, and there are X and Y coordinates. So the X and Y coordinates is just the direction of the drop shadow effect. So right now we have Y equals 4. So it's at the bottom of the dashboard frame, that drop shadow effect. I'm going to set the X equal to 4 too. And now you notice how I added it over to the right of the dashboard frame. And my rule of thumb for the blur is just the blurriness of the drop shadow effect, is to always do the addition of X and Y. So X plus Y, which is 4 plus 4, 8. And then we have that really nice let me move this box over. That really nice drop shadow effect. Now, I want to show everyone something. So if I go ahead and type 0 for the blur, you notice how it's like a border around around the shape object, the dashboard frame. That's not what we want, right? We want a really nice blurry drop shadow effect. So that's why my rule of thumb is to do X and Y, 4 plus 4, which is 8. And then now we have that. If I zoom out just a little bit, just to show you that really nice blurry drop shadow effect. So if I zoom out, we've only added 1 drop shadow effect, which is over to the right and at the bottom. We need the drop shadow effect surrounding the entire dashboard frame. And to do that, we'll just go ahead and click on the dashboard frame again, and then click on the plus sign, and we'll add another drop shadow effect. So this time, we are going to add it over to the left and at the top. And to do that, we'll just change the second drop shadow effect, X and Y coordinates, to be negative values. So it will be -4 for X and -4 for Y. So let me go ahead and punch that in there. So -4 for X. So now you can start to see it, the drop shadow effect over to the left. And then -4, if I hover over just a little bit, just to show you, -4 for Y. And there we go. We have our really nice, if I zoom in out of this dashboard frame, a really nice drop shadow effect surrounding the entire dashboard frame. So let me go back to the instructions documents. So we did step 1. So now what we want to do is we want to add the 3 round KPI boxes. Let me go back to the slide real quick. So we want to add these 3 KPI boxes. We have promoters for the green, the blue for passives, and then orange, gold for detractors with the sad face. So let's go ahead and do that. So let me go back to the instructions document. And to add in those 4 KPI boxes, we'll just at the top left here, we'll click on hover over shape tools. And just like how we added the rectangle before with the gradient color scheme, we're going to go ahead and click on rectangle again and just draw a rectangle or a square. So we drew our rectangle over. If I go back to the instructions document, let's see, the dimension of this round KPI box, and it's not round yet, right? We're gonna go and make it round in a second, but it's gonna be a dimension of 200 by 180. So I'll click on this round, on the square KPI box. And just like how we adjusted the dashboard frame width and height, we're gonna do the same thing for this round KPI box. So over to the right, the width is going to be, I think I completely forgot. My memory is very, very awful. So let's see. It's 200 by 180. So the width will be 200 and the height will be 180. So that's the dimension for the KPI box. So, and the fill color of this KPI box will be a light gray. And I have this memorized. So F2, F2, F2. And okay, awesome. So we're getting there. So we got our light gray for the KPI box. If I go back to the instructions document, let's see, the corner radius will be 20. So we want to add that really nice rounded edge. And to do that, we'll click on this KPI square box. Over the top right here, we're going to change the 0, just like how we changed the rounded corner edge of the dashboard frame under the width and height. We're going to adjust the 0 to 20 for the round KPI box. And I know it's hard to see, so we're gonna fix that up in a second. So I'm gonna go back to the instructions document, and now we need to add a drop shadow effect. So the drop shadow effect, if I go back to the slide, it has a really nice blurry green effect for this first KPI. And to do that, let's go back to the Figma design file. I have the shape selected. Over to the right, under effects, we're going to click on this plus sign. I'm going to click on this plus sign, and now you can start to see that drop shadow effect again. So I'm going to click on this icon that looks like a sun, drag this box over, and the X again will be 4, and then the Y will be 4. And just a heads up, you don't need to put 4 for X and Y. It could be any value, but for the purpose of this demo, I'm keeping it as 4 for X and Y. So, and then the blur would also be the addition of X plus Y, so 4 plus 4, which is 8. And now we want it to be green. So I'm gonna go ahead, and I think I have it saved in my palette under here. So I'm gonna click on green. And I don't like how, that's because the opacity is set as 100%. So let me go back. The opacity for this should be 50%. So let me go ahead and change this to 50%. And zoom out. And there we go. We have that really nice drop shadow effect. And we're only adding it to one direction. So we're not adding 2 drop shadows because we don't want the drop shadow to surround the entire round KPI box. So awesome. So we have our KPI box, our first KPI box. And what I love about Figma is that you don't need to recreate this again. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and click on the shape, Command C and Command V, copy and paste if you're on a Mac, or Control C, Control V if you're on a Windows. So I'm going to copy and paste this, drag it right below, and then I'm going to copy and paste and then drag it below again. And you notice how, like, when I try aligning it, the red vertical lines, I love that about Figma too, because it evenly tells you, like, hey, like these round KPI boxes are evenly distributed, which is really cool. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to select my 3 KPI, just drag it up a little bit just to make it aligned. And I think this looks good. Okay, awesome. So we have our first KPI box, which is green. The second KPI box should be blue. So all I'll need to do is I'm going to go ahead, click on the sun looking icon, drag the drop shadow effects settings box over, and just change the green to a blue. And change the opacity here. It's set at 100%, but we wanted to change it to 50 for this case. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to 50. And okay, awesome. So that looks good. And the third KPI box, this will be, let's see, I think it was like in yellow or gold. So I'll go ahead and click on this and change this to a gold. This looks fine. And this is for neutral. Awesome. So we have our 3 KPI boxes. We have the green, the blue, and the gold and yellow. So if I go back, and now what we need to do is step 3 is adding in the emojis and the circles. So let me show you on the previous slide. We're going to go ahead and add these emojis, the sad, happy face, neutral face, and the sad face. So to do that, again, we're going to be working with shapes. So at the top left here, I'm going to click on this shape looking icon, the square, click on ellipse, and then drag the circle, drag our circle over. So the dimension for the circle, I believe, is 70 by 70. Okay, yes, it is. So over to the right, we're going to go ahead and change the dimension for the circle for the width to 70, and the height will be 70. And I'm going to drag this up just a little bit at the top left here. And let's see. The fill color is F2, 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 light gray. So I'm going to change this to F2, F2, F2 under fill. And now we want to add a stroke effect. So let me zoom in upon the shape and show you what I mean. So Figma calls it a stroke effect, but really I think it's just the border of the shape. So let me show you what I mean. So over to the right here, there's stroke, and then right above effects. So we're not adding effects, right? That's for the drop shadows that we added. We just want to add the stroke, the border around the shape. I'm going to go ahead and click on the plus sign, and you'll notice this black border around surrounding the entire shape object. So I am going to go ahead and change this to the border of the shape to, let's see, a green. This looks good. Awesome. So we have our green border around surrounding the shape object for the circle. So now we want to add in the image. And to add in the image, what we'll do is we'll click on the circle, and then over to the right here, I am going to under fill. We already have a fill, which is F2, F2, F2. We're just going to add another fill. Click on this plus sign and change this to, let me drag this box over and show you. We add another fill, and it's by default, it says solid, but we want to change a solid to an image. So I'll click on image, and now you'll see a checker box. So the checker box is really just telling you, hey, an image should be inserted into this shape, into the shape. So I already have the images downloaded in my downloads folder. So I'm going to go ahead and click on choose image, and go to, well, it's in my documents folder. So let's go to documents and then put happy face. So I have my happy face, but it's kind of blurry. It's kind of hard to see, and that's probably because the opacity here over to the right is set at 20%. I'll just go ahead and change this to 100. And there we go. We have our happy face. So now we don't need to recreate this again. I could, just like how we copy and pasted the round KPI boxes, I'll do the same thing for these circles. So Command C, Command V, copy and paste for the other KPI box. And now what we'll do is I'll just zoom in upon the second KPI box, click it. I'll go to image first, choose image, because I want to change it to a neutral face. I could never make this kind of face. I tried making this face once, but I don't think I was able to do it. So I'm not going to try it again. So let me go ahead and change this, the border to a blue. So I think, there we go. Cool. So we have our promoters, our neutral, passives, and then the detractors. Let's go ahead and change this to like a gold, the border outline of the circle. I'm going to change this to a gold. And let's go ahead and change. Let me drag this box over just to show you. And then choose image. This will be a sad face. Awesome. So let me zoom out just to show you what it looks like. So we have our dashboard frame with the rounded corner edges. We have our 3 KPI boxes. We have our 3 circles for each round KPI box. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the slide, and we need to add 2 vertical rectangles with the inner shadows. So let me show you on the slide what I mean. So we're going to add these 2 rectangles with the inner shadow effect. And to do that, let me go back to the design file. Again, just like how we work with shapes, we're going to go right back to the shapes tool icon again, hover over it. It says shape tool at the top left. Click on that and then select rectangle. And we'll just add another rectangle. So I'll go ahead and add this rectangle. And I think, let's see, the dimension is 474 by 670. So width will be 474, and then height will be 670. There we go. Let me drag this up just a little bit. And now I think the fill color is a light gray. So again, under fill, click on this square box under fill. And let's go ahead and change this to, I already have the hex memorized, so F2, F2, F2. And let's see what's next. So now we want to add in the 2 inner shadows. So remember how I mentioned how the drop shadow looks like the object is above the objects behind it? So inner shadow, think of it as a reverse. So the inner shadow is going to be inside the shape object. So let me zoom in and show you what I mean. So I have the shape selected, the vertical shape that we just added. And over to the right, under stroke, the effects option, we're going to go back in there, click the plus button, and it's going to, by default, which we already worked with, the drop shadow effect. So I'm going to change the drop down menu from drop shadow to inner shadow. So you'll start to see it just a little bit at the top here, the black inner shadow effect. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the sun looking icon, drag this over. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the color of this drop shadow to a green. So let's see. Well, I'm going to change it to a blue first. So we have the blue, and the direction will be X again, will be 4, Y is 4. You notice how I punched, let me show you again. So X is 0. So look over to the left here. Check this out. So X is equal 0, and then X will be 4. And X, again, X and Y is a direction of the drop shadow. So I have the drop shadow at the top, over to the left, and the blurriness will be the addition of X and Y. So I'll go ahead and change this to 8. And now we have that really nice drop shadow effect. But we've only added it to like one side of the shape. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate it again, just like how we duplicated the dashboard frame, because we want the inner shadow to surround the entire vertical shape object. So I've just added another inner shadow. Again, by default, it says drop shadow. Just change it to inner shadow. Drag the inner shadow rectangle settings box over and change the X to a 4, the Y to a 4. Oh, apologies. The X will be a -4, and the Y will be a -4, and then the blurriness will be 8. So the blurriness would always be positive. It would never be. I don't think we can do that, right? -4 plus -4. No, I'm just kidding. So -4, -4, and then the blurriness will be 8. And let's go ahead and change this to let's see, this will be green because we already have blue. So I'll change this to green. And there we go. Let me just zoom out and show everyone what this looks like. So again, we have our dashboard frame, rounded corner edges. We have our 3 KPI boxes, round corner KPI boxes, our 3 circles with shapes embedded inside the circles. And then we have our vertical rectangle with the inner shadow effects. So I'm not going to recreate this. And this is what I really love about Figma again, is I could just copy and paste this rectangle over. And here we go. So let me go back to the instruction slide and see what's going on next. So now we need to add in a bar chart logo. So if I go back to the slide real quick, at the top right here, there's a logo that I downloaded from flaticon.com. It's a really awesome site. You can download a ton of different icons. It's Flaticon, Flaticon. So definitely check it out if you're looking for icons. So I already have this icon downloaded. So to add an image, or in this case, an icon onto this dashboard frame, at the top left here, I'm going to go ahead and click on this shape icon. And there's rectangle, line, arrow, ellipse, polygon, star, and finally place image. So I'm going to click on place image. And I already have it downloaded. Here we go, bar chart. And you know you have it selected because Figma is showing you a quick preview of the bar chart on your mouse. So if I move my mouse around, you can see the bar chart too. So you can know that you have that image selected. So I'm gonna go ahead and drag this box over. Let's see this icon. And position at the top right here. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go under fill, click on this image, drag this box over. I want this image to be fit inside that box, that purple or blue highlighted blocks with the 4 corners. So I'm going to go ahead and click on fill and choose fit. There we go. So we have we added our image or our icon in this case. And now if you wanted to add text to this dashboard frame, at the top left, just like you would in PowerPoint, there's an option that says T for text. Click on that. Draw your text box over. And one of the things I love about Figma is that you can download any of your favorite fonts and it will render in Figma for you. So in this case, I think probably one of my favorite fonts is Futura. So I'm going to go ahead and, well, it's kind of hard to see. So I'm going to zoom in up on this to show you. So let's give this dashboard title. So Net Promoter Score Dashboard. And I am going to highlight this and over to the right here under text. I'm going to type in one of my favorite fonts, Futura, Net Promoter Score Dashboard, and I'm going to increase the size of this to probably 24. And it's probably hard to read, so I'm just going to make this a black for this case. Awesome. So we have our Net Promoter Score Dashboard. We add in our bar chart icon. So what I'm going to do now is let me go back to the instructions first. Let's see. Okay, so one last thing that we need to do is if I go back to the slides, you notice on this slide, there is a wood tile behind the dashboard frame. So that is the outer frame. So what we added right now, what we've been working on together for this session was adding the inner frame, which is the round corner bordered edge, the title that says post experience survey with the rounded edges surrounding the entire dashboard frame. But now we want to add the outer frame, and the outer frame is what's really going to be your dashboard size in Tableau. So let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to go back to the slide, and I am going to go ahead and at the top left here, you remember in the very beginning when we added that dashboard frame? Well, to add in the outer frame with the wood tile background, we'll just go back at the top left to the grid looking icon. It says region tools. If I hover over it, click on that. Again, we get two different options. So this time I'm not going to select the desktop frame option. I'm just going to click it. And I'm going to draw that frame over my inner dashboard frame. And there we go. So we have we have the first dashboard frame that we just worked on, and it's now nested inside of the outer dashboard frame. And to add that wood tile image, I'll just click on the frame, and over to the right, I'll click on the fill color, which is white right now. And I will change this fill from a solid to an image. And now you can see that really giant checker box. We don't want a checker box as our dashboard image. So I'm going to go ahead and click on choose image, and then go ahead and choose a wood tile background. So I downloaded this random picture from Google for the purpose of this example. So it's still kind of hard to see the actual dashboard itself. So I'm going to click on the dashboard frame, the outer frame with the wood tile image, and then just change the opacity of it to like 50%. And here we go. So that's how you add a outer frame. So over to the left here, well, I'm not quite done. I think the dashboard frame for this dimension will be 1650 by 928. So let me go ahead and click on this frame, and the width will be 1650 at the top right, and the height will be 928. Okay, so 928. And now I'm going to drag this dashboard frame up just a little bit so it's centered, aligned, and I think that looks good. Let me just drag this over a little bit to the right. There we go. So awesome. So that's it. So that's it for the dashboard frame. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to my design files, and I'm going to show you the finished version, what it looks like. So here's what the finished version looks like. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and click on this dashboard frame, and we want to import it into Tableau so it can be our dashboard background. So I have the dashboard frame selected, and then over to the right at the very bottom here, the export option that I talked about, that I briefly kind of mentioned in the beginning, you can export this as a PNG image. So if I click on this PNG image, you can export as a PNG, JPEG, SVG, PDF, but for this purpose, for this demo, we're going to select PNG image. You can see a preview if I click on this little drop-down arrow, and apologies again if it's very hard to see. I wish I could zoom in up on this Figma on the edit options, but you can see a preview of what you're exporting. So I know I'm exporting MPS feedback vids. So I'll go ahead and click export. and give it a second. And there we go. We see that it downloaded here at the bottom left here. So I do have it downloaded. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pull up my Tableau workbook. And so let me go ahead and let's see. Okay, let me create a new dashboard. There we go. So I'm going to create a new dashboard, and let me go back to the Figma again. So again, like I mentioned, the size of the dashboard will be the width and height of your outer dashboard frame, the frame. So with the wood tile. So if I click on this, let me go back to the slide real quick. So it's 1650 dimension, 1650 width by 928. So let me go back to Tableau. The dashboard will be 1650. Let me go ahead, 1650. And then 928 will be the width, 928. Okay. And at the top left here, I always, this is really good best practice, is to remove the phone layout. I always do that. So I'm going to go ahead and delete the phone layout from the dashboard view. And now we've already downloaded the dashboard frame for Figma. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to drag over the image object over to the dashboard. And notice how I have tiled selected. I don't have floating selected. I don't want to float the image object. I want to tile it onto the dashboard. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this image object over. And I'm going to go ahead and go to choose. Well, before I go to choose, make sure that fit is selected and center. And then go to choose. And I have it here. So final MPS feedback viz. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this image, click apply. And there we go. So one thing you'll notice is the outer padding of this dashboard. You notice, because the image isn't fit on the dashboard right now. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the image and then remove the outer padding from 4, set it to 0, and remove the outer padding for the other tile. Let me go ahead and click on the outside. So I clicked on the image. I set the outer padding from 4 to 0. I'm going to click outside the image and then change that from 8 to 0. And there we go. Now it's really nice and fit on the dashboard frame. So this is what the final dashboard looks like with the charts floating over the dashboard frame. So all the chart elements that you see here on this dashboard, it's all floating. So I can move this around. So let me go ahead and go back to the PowerPoint slide. Well, I'm gonna go back to Figma really quickly because I need to show you this one quick tip that I promised everyone in the beginning. So let's say, let me go back to files and go back into the design file that we were just working off of. So let's say you have the trial, not the trial edition, you have the free edition, and you can only make I think it was up to 3 design files. And recheck the PowerPoint slides. But if you wanted to add a bunch of dashboards, right, into a design file, you can only have up to 3 design files. What you can do is if I zoom out of this design file, it is massive, right? So just copy and paste the frames. So you can copy and paste a frame. If I zoom out, imagine these as all of your dashboards, and you have it all in one design file. It's a really nice trick to creating multiple dashboards in one design file. And this is just an example, right? You don't have to duplicate the frames. You could go ahead at the top left here, frame, and then drag and draw another frame. And you could draw another frame if you wanted to. If I select that again, frame, I could draw another frame. So you can create an unlimited number of files, until you max out. But this is a really massive design file. I think there's a lot of opportunities here. So one of the things I really like about Figma, one of the other things I like about Figma is that you can hide your frames. So let's say you have 50 frames, right? I'm just coming up with this number. At the top left here, there's a little eyeball here. You can hide your frame. So you see how it showed it and hid it? So you can hide all of your frames, and you can start to see how I'm hiding every single frame. So if you were in presentation mode, or you're showing this to your manager or your team, You can hide all of the other dashboard frames if you have the free edition, and just show the two or the one that you really want to show during your meeting or presentation. So let me go back into the PowerPoint. And so that wraps up my demo. I really hope this was helpful, and thank you all so much again, everyone, for your time and for tuning in. And thank you to the Tableau Healthcare User Group Leadership Team for this opportunity to speak at today's session. So please let me know if you have any questions. So I'm going to go into the monitor chat.
Yeah, in the Q&A, Ghafar, we have a bunch of questions. And I think people are really excited with everything that you've presented here. I'm going to try to come up with like kind of the general themes that we've had. I think there were a couple of questions around when you would really want to use Figma. Is it something that you use in on the personal side? Is it something you use in the business setting? And kind of walk us through when and why you might want to use Figma a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I think in a business setting, you know, if you're getting a lot of different business requirements every single month, let's just say, from your experience working with your partner, the business requirements for like the dashboard design will keep changing, then I probably would, I mean, and this is just my opinion, my personal opinion, is, you know, not use Figma for that, because, you know, you're going to have to keep going back into the Figma design file, and you're going to have to keep changing it over and over again. But if you know that it's a one-time thing, you build the Figma mockup in Figma, your dashboard mockup, and you know there's not going to be as much changes to that design file, then I strongly recommend, you know, you use it. But if it's going to keep constantly changing, like, hey, I need this to be moved, I need this chart to be moved, I need to move around the design template, then I probably wouldn't recommend it. Figma for me personally is like an exploratory phase. You know, it's a really good way to enhance your dashboards, you know, adding in the drop shadow effects, the inner shadow effects, round corner edges. It looks really nice, especially, you know, when you share with your stakeholders. But if you're going to keep, I always I use Figma a lot for some of my personal Tableau public visits. I think, let me go back to the slide. I think I'm still sharing. So this is a really good use case, and one of the reasons why I had it up here is because of the navigation buttons. So that's another thing I love about Figma, is that if you have multiple dashboards in Tableau, then it's really nice for the user experience to have those customized buttons. So you can create custom buttons in Figma and then export those buttons into Tableau and have them as a dashboard navigation. I hope that answers this question.
Oh, definitely. I'm going to keep going on some of these questions just because we had a few here. Another kind of theme that seems to be coming up is around the specific tools. So we're talking about Figma, but are there any other tools that you've used that are similar or maybe have evaluated or used in the past? And if you have any experience to that you might be able to speak to.
Yeah, so I tried teaching myself Adobe Illustrator once, and I was horrible at it. So, but I mean, Figma is, I haven't used any other tool aside from Figma. I mean, I don't know much about Adobe, but I think it costs a few bucks to get that. But one of the biggest reasons I use Figma is because I've heard from others in the communities that it mirrors what Adobe can do, but don't quote me on that, please. But I heard that it doesn't have that real. Figma is completely free too, and it kind of mirrors, I think, what Adobe can do, but it's free. I mean, that's one of the biggest reasons why I'm using it. Is because it's completely free. I started out with the free edition, and when I really liked it, when I realized I really liked it, I asked my team to to get the professional edition for me, which I'm really excited about. But yeah, I mean, I haven't used Adobe. I haven't used any other software besides Figma. But if I were to think of another software that kind of mirrors what Figma can do, it would probably be Adobe Illustrator. But yeah, I hope that answers this question.
No, it does. And there was another question that came in that's kind of in parallel to that. Can you speak to even trying to make the business use case for why you would, like, let's say you're going to your team and saying, hey, we've got this tool that we could use. Can you speak to how you've tried to highlight how it could be used and what success you've had doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you don't have anything built yet, I recommend checking out other folks, other community members in the Tableau, what they've built using Figma. Lindsay Betzendahl is a really good Tableau public portfolio, has really awesome Tableau public portfolio, and I highly recommend checking out what she's created using Figma. I think I have it on the slide. There we go. So this is a really good business use case. She has a ton of more other really great example vizzes using Figma on her Tableau public portfolio. So I recommend checking that out. But that's the approach I would take, is I would look at other people's awesome work on Tableau public and then share that during the meeting and say, hey, like, this is what we could potentially do for our business use case or dashboard.
Awesome. I'm going to do one more, and then I'll ask if you don't mind just working through the Q&A and kind of checking off the ones that we've answered after the fact. But the last question, there have been a few questions that have come up around that instruction sheet you were referring to. Was that something that you created in prep of this meeting, or like where have you found those types of kind of instructions in the past?
So I created that for this meeting. I haven't found any instructions like that outside of in the past, but I just thought it'd be helpful to put some of the instructions like that together for this demo walkthrough. And I'd be happy to share the slide deck with everyone. So that's that.
Awesome. And the other plug I'll kind of make on that, hopefully by early next week, this meeting will be available on the Tableau community playlist. So there's the Tableau YouTube channel. They have specific playlists. There's one for the community. This will hit there, so people can also reference that as part of the presentation as they go back. I always find it helpful to watch a presentation, but then kind of go back at my own pace and work my way through it. But really, really do thank Ghafar for being here and sharing this and making a tool that can be intimidating when you see kind of the end product. But then once you start to really dive into it, I think it highlights like, no, there's just some simple steps to follow and you get some really cool things at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
awesome.
There's another question here from, and apologies if I can't pronounce your name. What if some of the charts get cut off within the Figma boxes or are too big despite sizing? So yeah, so for something like that, if you're worried about like charts getting cut off within Figma boxes, I would just play around with the chart sizings in Figma. So again, like everything in Figma is floating, right? So if your chart is too large in Tableau, maybe work with the inner padding or the outer padding just to make it smaller. But if you need the chart to be a bit bigger, then probably make the elements in your Figma design file bigger that you create in Figma. Just make the dashboard size just a bit bigger. You have to move some things around, of course, and then export that into Tableau and see if it fits within those shape objects. And I hope that answers the question.
Awesome. There definitely are a few others, but in the interest of time, we're going to move on to the next presentation. So again, thank you, Ghafar. If you have time and have the ability to kind of work through within the Zoom Q&A, we should have the ability to just kind of answer, just like type answers and all that kind of fun for a few of the questions that we didn't get to. I know that there are a few questions that maybe get into some of the technical things that you were working through and felt like those might be best reserved for a type out so people can look at it and then kind of go at their own pace with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. All right. Thank you again. We're going to segue into the second presentation today. We have two other peers of mine at the University of Chicago Medical Center. We are going to be presenting today on our effort to integrate BI into our analytics request process. So at that, I believe, Whitney, you are going to be sharing the screen and I can make sure that everything looks good. Great. So like I mentioned, we've already had the title, but what we are going to do is really just jump into intros. Whitney, if you want to, yep, we should be good. So who are we? I think many of you may know who I am just as a co-lead with this group, but I am a BI lead with our clinical data and analytics team at UChicago Medicine. Do a lot of work with the other two faces that you see on the screen on how we're leveraging Tableau here at our organization. And I'll hand it off to Megha to intro herself as well.
Thanks, Mark. Hi, everyone. I'm Megha Kilaru. I'm a manager for the clinical data science and analytics team here at UChicago Medicine. So my primary role is to ensure that clinical data are strategically leveraged to make sure that we're supporting clinical excellence initiatives at the hospital. So a little bit about my educational background. So that is in public health, specifically epidemiology, as well as data science. I've been with the institution now, I think, for about 5.5 years. And I started off initially in research and then moved over to the analytics team. So overall, I oversee a variety of work that includes inpatient operations, capacity and access, nursing reporting and quality, as well as validating some predictive and prescriptive models for the institution. And now I'll hand it over to Whitney.
Hello, everyone. My name is Whitney Westphal. I'm a business intelligence lead analyst with UChicago Medicine. I've been with the organization for 8 years, but with this team for about 3. My educational background is a little unconventional. I have a Master's of Arts in Chinese Culture from the University of London, as well as a Master's in Information Systems from DePaul University. My work on the team is predominantly me building a lot of Tableau dashboards, but I do also do a lot of work helping to drive user engagement with our dashboards, as well as promote data fluency in the organization. My work to date has really focused on ambulatory operations, but now I'm foraying into a lot of the work that Megha's doing with inpatient quality, and I'm really excited for that. And so I will pass it back to her to continue on with the presentation.
Thanks, Whitney. So a little bit about UChicago Medicine and who we are. So we are a nonprofit academic medical healthcare system with over 800 beds and over 9,000 employees. We're based on the campus of University of Chicago in Hyde Park, but we have a variety of hospitals, outpatient clinics, and physician practices throughout the city of Chicago and its suburbs specifically. So today we're really excited to be here to talk to you guys about how we actually built up our analytics team and what our team is comprised of today. And also how we previously fulfilled our analytics requests. What were some of the shortcomings of that process and what needed to be improved on? And then how we actually leveraged the knowledge and skill set of our BI team and began embedding BI in our analytics requests. And lastly, we're also going to talk to you guys about how we continue to hone our new process and some opportunities for improvement. So the journey to actually building up our talented multidisciplinary team took about 10 years. And the first step in our evolution really started with getting a core group of analysts. So these core group of analysts actually came in with clinical domain knowledge, and they had what we needed to really help us develop key metrics for the institution. Their focus was more on the diagnostic analytics side of things. But as we built up this foundation for our team, we realized that we also needed engineers. So our engineers really worked to help us with more advanced analytics projects, data modeling, data engineering. And this was really integral at this time because our databases and data warehouse needs were really expanding over time. Our engineers also allowed us to start focusing on other important factors such as data quality and data governance. And then we actually added some data scientists as well. So they leverage advanced analytics and machine learning methods to conduct some of the statistical modeling that we do, help build predictive and prescriptive models, and also validate existing predictive models to ensure that the models are delivering effective and equitable care. Lastly, but definitely not least, we have a sector of business intelligence whose main focuses are descriptive analytics and developing dashboards and data visualizations. And so Tableau is our primary data delivery tool. And because of this, BI specialists play a key role in connecting our data to insights. And so they do this by thoughtfully creating dashboard blueprints or wireframes, as we like to call them at UChicago, and combine that with their Tableau skill set. By leveraging both of these skills, BI specialists are an integral part of our team's process to efficiently and effectively deliver data and insights to our end users. So at a high level, this is what our team structure looks like today. Like a lot of teams today, we are fully remote. So at the top here, you can see we have our executive director of clinical data and analytics. Over on the left, you can see we have our data science group. So we have a principal data scientist and a couple other data scientists there. This larger chunk in the middle is our analytics group. So we have a director at the top of that. And then we have two managers. One side really focusing on ambulatory quality and operations. And then I work more on the inpatient side. So my team really works on the inpatient quality and operations. And so under each manager, we have a variety of roles, as we kind of described earlier a bit. We have analytics engineers, senior analysts, and analysts. And then, of course, over here on the right, we have our business intelligence group. So we have our BI lead, Connolly, who's on the call with us, and our BI lead analyst, Whitney, Westphal. And we also have a couple of BI analysts as well. So our team's primary goal to support quality improvement is to support quality improvement. And we do this through a variety of initiatives. So you can see on the screen here, these are some of the areas of focus where we have really been able to build useful Tableau reports that also have high visibility at our institution. And so some of them can range from the capacity and access work that I've referenced before. So that's like the length of stay, readmissions, mortality. Also the ambulatory side of things, so hypertension management, cancer screening, and also COVID-19. As we all know, that's been very important the last couple of years. So we also have other projects as well, so this is not an exhaustive list. I'm going to hand it over to Mark now, who's going to talk to us about our current analytics process.
Yep. So like Megha had mentioned, we've done a lot of really, really great work. And we had all of these kind of puzzle pieces and how we were trying to attack all the requests that were coming our way. I'm going to dive into a little bit of what it looked like before we started to integrate BI and be really more, I'd say, a little more thoughtful about how we move forward from the word go. The standard that we had is that a request would come in and it'd get assigned to a team member. I think a key note here is it could get assigned to a data scientist, it could get assigned to an analyst or an engineer. And then that individual would kick the project off. They'd then jump into code development and developing their dashboard, sometimes all at the same time. And then they would share and iterate and refine the dashboard with the requester, and then ultimately get into deployment and maintenance. Seems clean, but it wasn't working as well as we really wanted it to. When we identified that things were a little off, we kind of had a few different themes that started to come up for us. The first one is that we were quick to start, but slow to finish. So we hit the ground running, and then it'd take months and months and months for a project to really hit at that final state. A big second theme that we had, feedback came late for us, and we'll talk a little bit about what that looked like. And then finally, we recognized that we really weren't leveraging our team skills at their highest level. And that was something that we really wanted to hone in and identify or figure out how we could best address that. Yep, good. When we look at this process that we were working in, there were kind of key points that we realized we were missing a step and needed to kind of further improve. Off the bat, we noticed that we were just jumping right into things. We didn't take that time to really think about what is the final end product going to look like and really develop up what we refer to as our solution design. Effectively, we were building a house without a blueprint. And you'd get to a point where you're missing pieces, missing key things, or just things weren't coming together at the end, and this would extend the life of a project. The other piece that was tough, we would try to do everything all at once. We might be starting some of the code development, started the dashboard at the same time, and we'd find things were kind of haphazard and not really leading to a full efficient process for us. So this was something we really wanted to address. The next piece that was a really key theme for us was that feedback was coming late for us. Oftentimes, the first time that anyone would see anything from a visual standpoint was after we had done the code development, after we had done and completed a dashboard, and we were sharing it with somebody, and we'd find maybe we weren't aligned. Maybe it didn't have that piece that they were looking for, or we just didn't, we missed a key question that maybe they had. And what this would lead to is this kind of fire drill approach of needing to rush to the end of a project and not really having the best final product out there. It might look good, but we know it was a rushed process, and it's not good for anyone in that case. It's not good for the end requester, but it's also not good for our staff that are working under stress because of a late feedback cycle. And then finally, another key piece that we just kind of saw across the whole picture was that even though we were all under this kind of same umbrella, we were working in silos in the sense that an analyst, an engineer, or data scientist would work on a project A to Z and really weren't tapping into those BI resources that we had brought in and developed within our team. What this led to is essentially at a different stage, there might be that skill that they're really, really honed in on. So maybe they're really strong on the code development, maybe they're strong on the dashboard development, but it really varied depending on the role that was involved in that project. And I think I'm stealing this quote from Whitney, but we recognized that there was a party going on in the bottom left, and we wanted to bring the BI team over and really elevate how we could use all of the talent on our team in a really cool process. So we got to work making a new analytics process, and I'm going to hand it off to Whitney to really dive into what this looks like today.
All right, thanks, Mark. So every good process has a secret sauce. Our secret sauce was to, 1, maximize everybody's skills, and 2, embed BI into our analytics process. So let's talk a little bit about our new process. So this new process has 6 stages to it. And it starts out with requirements gathering. This really lays the foundation to a successful process. So for us, requirements gathering means getting all of the business requirements from our requesters. So you can see down below that the requester, either the data analyst and engineer, and the BI specialist are all a part of this very important step. Everybody's at the table from the very beginning. And as part of this, our team also developed a kind of more formal requirements gathering document, and this really allowed us to standardize our work and make sure that we were getting all the information that we needed for every party involved in the process right from the beginning. The next step is the solution design step, which is very important. And this is really where BI steps up and provides a wireframe or that dashboard blueprint based on everything that was gathered in the requirements gathering phase. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in the next slide in greater detail. So I am going to keep moving on to the next step. So after solution design, we go into analysis. So this is when our data analyst or data engineer takes control of the process, and they begin taking a look at the requirements as well as the wireframe that the BI specialist developed. And they're going to start working on the coding and delivering that output table to our BI specialist so that the BI specialist can then begin the visualization process in Tableau. And so once we get to the analysis and visualization phases, it's a bit of an iterative process, right? So we don't always get the output table right from the get-go. So the BI specialist will often give feedback back to the analyst, and we will have to finesse things a little bit. So there's some iterations happening, but then there's also iterations and refining of the visualization. Once that's set up, our BI specialist presents that to the original requesters, and based on a feedback loop, will then make changes until we get to that final dashboard. And once we get to that final dashboard that the requester is happy with and they feel like it answers all of their business questions, then we go into the deployment phase. And that for us really means just publishing up that dashboard to our production environment. And this is really the last stage in the process where the BI specialist plays a key role. After that, we go into the maintenance phase, which by and large is mostly the responsibility of the data analyst or data engineer. They're helping to maintain any small updates, and they also work really closely with the requesters oftentimes in different work groups. So they're just closer to the work, so they stay to maintain it. But let's talk a little bit more about solution design. So solution design, like Mark said, is really, really important. Before, in our last process, we weren't doing it. We were building a house without a blueprint. So we decided for our success, we really needed that blueprint. So our BI team has come in to help build a wireframe, and their expertise is really being able to connect the ideas that are presented by the requesters and the business owners, and figuring out ways to translate that into a visualization that's going to land and resonate with the requesters, so that people can get to insights quicker with their information, because that's what we're all after. So our BI specialist will build that wireframe, they'll present it to our stakeholders for feedback, and then again, iterate, make any changes, refine that wireframe until they get a final sign off where the requester says, hey, I really like where this is headed. I'm comfortable with how our dashboard will look if we follow this plan. At that point, we go into the next steps. But I know we've mentioned the terms wireframe and dashboard blueprint a lot. So, I know people refer to it as different things. So I want to share with you just a few of our example wireframes that we've used for some recent projects. And I don't think, these were all used using the tool called Excalidraw, but we've made wireframes using a variety of tools. We've done them with pen and paper, just sketching it out. Mark will often pull out his whiteboard and, scrawl out a dashboard. And we've also used PowerPoint and Publisher. It doesn't have to be fancy, but the tool that seems to be really resonate with our team is Excalidraw, which is a free tool available online. And then if you're really fancy, there are really great tools like Adobe XD out there for more advanced wireframing. So when I come back to this, I just want to hit on the fact that solution design has really set up our entire process for success. So by doing the solution design, we're saving a lot of rework, a lot of time, going back and making changes. So we're reducing that development time. And so I will say that not every project that we get is going to fit really nicely into this process. It's just impossible. But what we do is our clinical data and analytics managers collaborate very closely with our BI team to identify the level of BI support that a project may require. And when I say the level of BI support the project may require, what I'm talking about is, will the BI specialist be needed just to create a wireframe that they then hand off to an analyst or data engineer to then develop? Or will they be doing the wireframing and the development of the Tableau dashboard? So there's a few different ways that we provide support, and that's really dependent on a project's complexity, its visibility within the organization, and how quickly it needs to be produced. And some projects, though, do share some similarities with the old project. Sometimes it's just one single person following the project through. But I think it's worth calling out that we still expect the same standards that we've set forth in this new process. We would still expect an analyst or an engineer to provide some sort of wireframe to the requesters before moving on to those subsequent steps of the process. So for us, this process has really sowed the seeds of success. And I'd like to share with you one example. This was actually a project that I worked on. In the past year, I've worked with the OB-GYN group, specifically perinatal services, and they had requested really a series of dashboards. And so we decided to phase it out. And so last year we completed phase 1. And the timeline in the top row, you can see our requirements gathering lasted for about 4 months. It seems like a long time. Not everybody was at the table at the right time, and we were having a hard time nailing down what the requesters really wanted. It wasn't until month 4 that the development kicked off. And the development kicked off, that's when the BI specialist first got involved with the process. And so the development took about 3 months, and that was really based on the things that Mark mentioned. Things just weren't going right. We weren't getting feedback in a timely manner. There was a lot of rework being done before we finally got to that deployment phase. So more recently, we had kicked off phase 2 of our dashboard request for perinatal services. And so from the get-go, the BI specialist was involved along with the requesters and our data engineer. So everybody was at the table from day one. And so they kicked off the requirements gathering. And as that was ramping up, there was enough information to get going on that solution design to provide that wireframe to the group. And so we were able to get sign off on both of those things, about 6 weeks into the project. At that point, we were able to start development, which took about another 6 weeks before we were able to deploy the dashboard into its final production environment. And so just by implementing this new process, we were able to reduce the analytics project lifecycle by half. That is huge. So how did we do it? Well, we look at 4 different things as it's attributing to our success. One being that BI support was there from day one. 2, that we had developed a standard for requirements gathering. We knew all of the information we needed, and it's a tool that our team uses to keep us on track. 3rd, we have that solution design. We are creating a plan before we go into the development and trying to figure out what kind of dashboard we want to build. We already know the minute we open Tableau and start working. And lastly, we are able to hold our requesters accountable to the requirements that they signed off on in that requirements gathering phase of the project. So that really allowed us to reduce scope creep and to move through the process a lot faster. And overall, our customers have been really happy with this new process. And I will hand it over to Mark to talk a little bit about the customer experience.
So prior to this presentation, we reached out to a few folks and brought some of just a couple of the quick kind of quotes that we got from our end customers. The first is from our executive director of clinical data analytics. There's a lot there, but a key note was just looking at where we were at before and really recognizing that this process has ultimately reduced a lot of rework for our team. And just being able to see that and making our team more efficient. The second big quote that we got in kind of highlighting the work that's gone in here is from a manager from our quality performance and improvement group, which is one of the key partners. I think a vast majority of the requests that we manage actually come from this group, and we work really closely together. And what she really highlighted is that when people are using an end product that's come from our team, and they know that they've had that opportunity to have a say in that from senior leadership to that frontline staff, it really allows us to more easily use that data and ultimately drive and improve the quality of the care that we're providing to our patients. So it's really great to kind of hear this from our end customers. So it's not just us feeling like we've done a good job, but also seeing that on the front end. And I think we'll keep moving on to just acknowledging it's always nice to highlight all these great things, but we still have a ways to go. I think a thing that we do really well here is iterate and continue to improve on our existing processes. So there are some key themes that we've already identified that we need to move forward. So I mentioned a quick quote from the manager from our quality performance group, but we have other requesters and other groups that we're working with, and trying to get them comfortable with what this new process is something that we're working through. So setting up time, having them navigate through new requests, and not necessarily having a single person that they're working with, but a team that's supporting them at various stages. So definitely working through that. The second big theme that we're focused on is how do we improve what this documentation looks like? Right now, it's a lived experience of change for everybody with our group. But like Megha had mentioned at the beginning, we have open roles. People are joining the team, and we're recruiting and thinking about how do we onboard somebody? How do we get them used to this? How do we make this the standard that our team works on? And a big piece of that is documentation. Another theme I know we are really excited about really trying to elevate more is how we do user usability testing. I think historically what we've done is handed a dashboard off and asked them to use it and let us know if there are problems. And we just hope that it works. But really want to take that next step to circling back to some of those things that we're highlighting in that requirements gathering document when we're creating that wireframe, that it is meeting the need that was asked, that an end user knows how to answer the questions that they came to us for help on. So really want to standardize that and make that a stronger part as we get closer to kind of that deployment, which again is the last theme that's outlined here. We've noticed as we still get closer to deploying the dashboard, it was easier when we had a single person who just knew, yep, I've checked every box off, I can publish this. When we have multiple people involved, there is just that opportunity, I think, for us to make sure that there's a standard checklist and who's kind of accountable for what stages, to make sure that the testing's been done, that the proper validation has been completed, and that we're ready to go for deployment. So to wrap up at a high level, we as a team have over several years been accumulating different roles: analysts, data engineers, data scientists, and BI specialists most recently. Our previous analytics fulfillment process was bogged down by long development times, but ultimately we weren't leveraging our team's talents at their highest level. So recognizing this, we've developed a new fulfillment process that really maximizes everyone's skills and brings in that expertise of BI that's focused on that solution design, which is wireframing, and really thinking about what does this need to look like at the end. And then even when we get to the part of developing the dashboard, recognizing that these BI specialists do have that skill and focus on the Tableau side and can help us develop either complex reports or just reports that are quicker and we need to get it out the door. There's kind of those two needs, but we do have a team that is comfortable with Tableau to varying degrees. It's just being really thoughtful about when and where do we need to maximize those that are experts in certain roles. And finally, this isn't a finished product by any means. We're continuing to iterate on it and improve our process, both with what our team is experiencing, but also our end users and how they're interacting with it. And making sure that we continue to get this going. I don't know if we've highlighted it, but this is something that's been underway for the last year in terms of us really trying to overhaul what this process looks like. So still a ways to go, but wanted to share it with the group. I was keeping an eye on some of the chats. I think a lot of folks have probably experienced similar things or are working their way towards something like this. So with that, happy to open it up to any questions. And I think Nicole, you might be back. Great.
I am back.
Cool. Awesome.
Yes, there are some questions in the chat. Michael asked, what process documentation tools are you looking at for next steps for improvement?
So in terms of like tools we're using, a lot of what we're doing is just tracking. We use a couple things. One, we have Smartsheet we use to track a lot of kind of like requests and things like that. We also have ServiceNow, which is the main intake for analytics requests. We have like our internal kind of tracking of things that we use with Smartsheet. And then even just on the documentation of what processes look like, we're using your standard like Word document and sharing it on a shared drive with it. Nothing too flashy on that sense. When we think about what does it look like for improvement, that's where we're identifying when did we get the request, when are we actually having the project kick off, who's involved in it, and how do we start to track those development times. I think Whitney highlighted a great example of what a kind of two phases of a process look like. That was the first time I think we were truly tracking, all right, we did this in this process, what did it look like with a similar request now, and trying to be more thoughtful with it so that we truly can say, yep, we've continued to improve what this process looks like from that end product side. I think the other thing that is an interesting, it's counterintuitive, but if we're doing our jobs better, you may even see a decrease in requests that come because we're going to be more thoughtful about our requests. It's not as many ad hoc things. We're being just more thoughtful at the beginning to help us on that. So even tracking the request. And then finally, I know another thing that Whitney alluded to is what does that engagement look like? So tracking on our Tableau server, what are the hits? How often is it being used? What kind of decisions are being made? And I think one of the final notes that I have on this, because I can rant about tracking this process, ultimately, if we're doing our jobs well and we're a partner as part of a larger kind of solution here, we're going to improve outcomes for our patients. So that's the real driver we want to focus in on. There's all these other things that we do kind of on the selfish BI side. We want to make sure people are using stuff.
Do you speed up your development of Tableau dashboards by using any templates?
Whitney, do you want to attack that one?
Sure. So we do have a template available for all of our developers, and we actually have a work group that has revamped those. So we have a variety of templates now available depending on the type of dashboard you want to build, just to make that process a little bit easier. And it's great having that standard product so that when stakeholders look at our dashboards, there's that same look and feel. You know, it's a University of Chicago dashboard.
Oh, and I'll make a plug. We have a Tableau public profile for our clinical data and analytics team. And if you go to that, you'll kind of see what the template looks like. It's very consistent across the board for those. Again, all of the data on that is all fake data meant to be dashboard starters, but you can get a sense of what our templates look like here.
Somebody's also asking if you have any third-party products to support your quality space.
And I think I'm seeing that one too. So other products that we have, the majority of our reporting is coming off of our SQL server. So we have an enterprise data warehouse that we use here. That is kind of the main source, and that's kind of going through your standard ETL with it. We are relatively new in our use of Alteryx as well to kind of look at those workflows. I saw a couple of questions or comments around Tableau prep or not. But we're using Alteryx, or is kind of that, I'd say, is augmenting what is the majority of your standard ETL in a SQL server. I'm trying to think if there's any other products. I don't know, Megha, Whitney, if there's any other kind of quick products on your side other than people. Like we have roles, and I mentioned our quality performance improvement group. They are quality, like their roles really help kind of keep everything on track, keep us moving. They're bringing in us to the picture, but also our clinical experts, and ultimately driving as part of larger work groups for priority focus areas, getting the right people at the table to make sure we're actually improving the quality that we're doing here. So we're a piece of a larger kind of team at the end of the day.
I'm actually kind of curious, how many requests do you guys get in a month? Like, how do you manage prioritization of those? And then what's your audience size for your Tableau dashboards?
Do you want to hit the first one, Megha, and I'll grab the second?
Yeah, perfect. So typically we'll get, and I'm trying to think of an exact number, but anywhere between, I would say, 10 to 20 requests a month. Sometimes can be more than that, sometimes can be less than that. What those requests look like really ranges. So it can be pretty complex requests. It can be a quick data pull request. So what we do is some of the managers and directors on the team will meet with other quality directors and key stakeholders that we typically fulfill requests for from different groups. So we'll meet weekly, and we'll kind of talk through them clinically, what's the priority for the institution. And we also take a look at a variety of different things of the bandwidth of the team that we have, currently the ongoing projects that we have. Particularly with BI, we'll meet with them on a weekly basis, which I think Whitney and Mark mentioned previously, but we'll meet with them as well to talk about their bandwidth and then talk about priorities that way too.
Yep. And then in terms of kind of what our Tableau instance looks like, we have over 1,000 kind of monthly active users on our server. I think last I looked, we average around 1,000 views a day of just dashboards across. That's not just on the quality space, but other things like HR, supply chain, and other groups that are leveraging our server. But that has definitely grown over time with it. And I think another piece to this is there is a maintenance aspect to a lot of this work. It's like the more you do, the more you're maintaining. So it starts to balance off there a little bit.
There's some new questions that just came in. Does your analyst do data visualization development, or is it just the BI team that works on the data visualizations?
And Megha, I might put you on the spot because I thought you had or Whitney too. I thought we had some interesting conversations about this, like even in advance of the meeting.
You can go ahead, Megha, if you want to take it.
Yeah, so I think each of our analysts and engineers and data scientists have, I think, Mark, you mentioned this, have a variety of different levels of experience with Tableau. And so it kind of depends on the project. So I think if the project has high visibility or it's extremely complex, that's usually a flag for us to say, hey, we really need to loop in our BI team for this project. But if it's something where an analyst maybe wants to expand some of their skill set, like, hey, I do want to expand some of my Tableau skills, we'll give them the opportunity to really be able to hone those skills and actually build the data visualization. So kind of in that weekly meeting that, managers have with the BI team, we look at the project and say, hey, are we going to just have, the BI team help in terms of wireframing? Are we going to have the BI team wireframe and build it? And so all of that kind of depends on a project by project basis. Whitney, I don't know if you have anything else to add.
Yeah, and I think that some people just, we may have an analyst that's really passionate about Tableau. So, we definitely want people. I think that what's really great about our team is that if you are passionate about something, there's always an opportunity or an avenue for you to explore that. So for analysts, they can explore Tableau and do that type of work. I think what's just really different about having the BI specialists on the team is that they're really trained and focused on kind of that business analysis component of things and really honing in on what people, the requesters want and thinking through the ways to best visualize that. So I think it's just, one skill set, but I think anybody on the team can do it. I think some people just do it more than others.
Do you want to take a few more questions?
Yeah, we have time. We're happy to.
Okay. Are you able to share your new formal requirements gathering document? So the document that you send out to the people who are requesting information.
I can speak to a little bit, and then Megha, if you want to help on that one as well. I don't know if we can share the full document, but at a high level, the way kind of our requests even come into our intake, we have our ServiceNow kind of application and request form, and we get some high level notes, but it's usually just like a quick 1 or 2 lines like, hey, I need COVID data. And then it comes to our team and we have to do a little more investigation with that. So when we have these requests come in, and it might be a 1 or 2 email back and forth just to get additional clarification on it, we'll assign that request and have, in this case, I'm going to say an analyst is assigned to the project with BI support. That analyst is going to set up a kickoff meeting, and they're actually going to work through that document themselves, pulling together the information that they have been able to gather, but then what's missing, they're going to touch on in a more like conversational format. The document actually is pretty overwhelming when you look at it, but it really highlights all these different things that we have to think about when we're doing any type of request. And if we were to send that on to somebody, some things like if we talk about data lag, granularity, you're going to lose people in a heartbeat. So we try to hit that with different ways. It's like, how do you want to see your data? What level? Like, do you want to see it at the provider level? Do you want to see it at the department level? And we're kind of training up how we ask those questions to help fill out that request. But really what we're looking at is what is the purpose of the request? Who is that target audience? What are the key questions that you have with it? Maybe even more importantly, what are you going to do with it? What are the actions that you're going to take? And then we get into some of the kind of nitty gritty around metrics and definitions and all that kind of fun. Am I missing anything at a high level, Megha, that we're looking for?
No, I think you pretty much covered it. Yeah, just really getting a sense from the requesters at a high level. How are they going to use the dashboard? What is it going to be used for? How is it going to drive improvement at the hospital?
You guys use the same process for like ad hoc requests? Or do you find that people just kind of reach out to their normal go-to person for things like that?
Yeah, so at least for ad hoc requests, we still encourage that everyone still goes through our ServiceNow request system, just so also we have it documented, and ever if it comes up again where we need to refulfill that request, it's noted there. So we do direct everyone. Sometimes, obviously, we do get the emails like, hey, can you get me this data? We still direct them to our service now. As far as the requirements form, I think we do that on a case-by-case basis. If it's a super quick data pull, that's something that we've done before. Typically, we won't actually fulfill or fill out a requirements form for that. But these requirements forms are really useful for the bigger projects, for the projects that are going to be developed into Tableau dashboards.
How do providers within UChicago prefer to have their Tableau reports delivered? Via server, or are you giving them hard copies, or are they subscribing?
Yeah, a lot of, I'd say specifically providers, we have found the subscriptions work, which is counterintuitive from like what Tableau can fully do. But for those projects that are like high visibility, or we need providers to be able to see their data, it has been the subscription route. There are, I'd say, providers that are focused on the quality side that aligns with a lot of what our work primarily has been focused on. That may be like the quality leader, the quality chief for a given area. Those are the providers that are going to get more in the weeds. They're going to start interacting with dashboards and things like that. Whitney, I'm curious to your thoughts too on like kind of driving that provider engagement and your experiences there.
I mean, I think I've worked on projects where the providers really like getting the email pushed to them. But I think one of the biggest barriers that we've seen with that, and I'm sure other people probably struggle with this as well, but when you get that email subscription from Tableau, if you want to click into the report, I know for us, you actually have to be on a VPN if you're looking at it on your phone. And so it makes it a little bit more challenging to get to that dashboard. So that's been some feedback that we've gotten, but it's a great way to provide a snapshot. I think we just have to be really cognizant of what way that the requesters want something to be delivered to them, and what's that best way, and design a dashboard that's going to best serve that purpose.
Can you review again how you make the distinction between analytics and business intelligence?
Yeah, again, I'll take a stab, and what I missed, let me know, guys. On the business intelligence side, it's really kind of that expertise on the solution design and really thinking about how do we want to visualize this data. So thinking about what are who are the main audience members that are coming in and going to be interacting with this data. What questions do we have? How do we make it easy for them to think about, or how do we make it easy for them to access that? The other really key kind of skill is on that Tableau side. Are you comfortable being able not only just to build kind of your standard dashboard, but taking it that step further? Are you familiar with parameters, sets, actions, knowing how to manage formatting, also knowing like, how do I even need to maybe potentially advocate for data sources to be structured to allow me to do these things, and getting into that space. I think another thing that our team does highlight that's a little outside of the process is being an advocate for training on Tableau, managing our server, site admin activities, those types of things that really sit in that wheelhouse of that business intelligence product. So it's the solution design, it's also that technical expertise. In terms of that analyst divide, analysts also know Tableau for us. The step that they have that's different and unique from the BI side is really focused on that SQL skill. And specifically being able to leverage their clinical domain knowledge that they've acquired by being a part of a work group, but also training and expertise with Clarity and our Epic essentially Clarity and our data warehouse. And then I'm going to go that third step, the engineer side, really looks at how do we manage, how do we need to set up the ETL, how do we need to data, what's the data model that we need to build, and really honing in on that space. So we try to divide it that way, but our engineers know how to use Tableau, our analysts know how to use Tableau, BI knows how to use Tableau, different levels across. And I'd say too, when people start with us, there's standard training that everyone gets here on that product. So we make sure that there's at least a general level of comfort, because you can't do the engineering work if you don't know what's going to happen on the Tableau side, and you can't partner well with the engineer if you don't know like what kind of things that they're going to have to navigate. So yeah, Megha, Whitney, anything else that you might add there? Any other questions?
There are several more in the Q&A. I don't know if maybe you can tackle them after.
Yeah.
I actually just got an alert that my PC is going to die.
Oh, love that. I saw one last question I wanted to hit, and then we can probably wrap up. There's a couple questions around like kind of the proportion and managing the requests. I think one of the real benefits of this new process is that from the BI perspective, we're like internal consultants. We come in on a project, we help in this very specific area, and then we move on to a next one. And because of that, it allows us to move a little more efficiently and not have like our portfolio fill up very quickly. So when you think about wireframing, that is, while definitely a skill, is not this crazy lift of time. So we're able to do more wireframing than we might do dashboard development and SQL development and all of that. So being able to like focus in on these things that we're really skilled at allows us to be more efficient to manage those requests. Because of that, you don't necessarily have a one-to-one of BI to analyst or engineer. I'd argue that we're probably shaking out what that's going to look like from a kind of one-to-one perspective, but we definitely know it doesn't need to be a one-to-one. It is going to be something off of that today. But luckily, we do have kind of our intake process, and then we work with Megha and the analytics managers that we have in our group to figure out what's that prioritization, what does our bandwidth look like still, and how do we navigate that? So it's not like just this free for all. There's a little thought to it that really kind of helps us move along. Cool. But thank you, everyone. I think we can put a bow on it today.
It's a lot of questions. Yeah, I think everyone's going to be reaching out to you, Mark, after this meeting to get some more information.
That's good. We're hiring. I love it. But I do really want to just say thank you to everyone who joined today. Again, we have upcoming sessions in June and September, I believe, outlined. If you are interested in presenting, we're open to a whole bunch of topics. I think this today just happened to fall really heavy on the BI, the wireframing, the data visualization space, which is really cool. You know, that's near and dear to my heart, Whitney's heart, a bunch. So that's today. In the future, we are always open to other topics and other things. We can definitely make stretches to touch the healthcare space. Cool. And
I'm excited for our upcoming meeting in June. We have 2 great speakers coming up, which we will be tweeting about. If you do follow us, it's @HealthTug on Twitter. And obviously we'll be sending out invites sometime in the future for that.
Awesome. Well, again, thanks everybody. I'm going to be ending the webinar, so it's just going to kick you out if you're not paying attention. So I hope you have a good one, everybody.
Thanks, guys.